Yes.
Gonna grab some water.
Does anybody need agendas?
I have mine.
I could use an agenda
I'm
and
good.
if we have minutes,
We do.
I could use a copy of them as well.
It's also much more fun without,
I feel like we can be in and out in 30 minutes.
hey,
I like the way you
There you
think.
go. I think we have it in.
Good.
Seems like a good spring gift to ourselves.
I guess I probably could solve the one.
Beautiful day today.
Exactly.
What pollen is in there? I know it's tree pollen. It's not tree pollen.
Well, until the,
Where?
Everywhere. My face is like dying.
Allergies, yes.
I've never.
Is that you?
Brief as
A little mini backhoe?
one old dug well
Mm-hmm.
that has been overgrown,
Uh,
and I've been slowly working away. I don't need that fun.
Okay, you all set, Celia?
Slowly working away, clearing and brush away.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and call this meeting to order.
Plant flowers and stuff, where it is.
So welcome, everybody. It's May 9th. Oh, David, are you leading this one?
It's just,
You can, we had agreed to switch, but go ahead,
Right. Then I would-
because I wasn't gonna be here at the next meeting.
In
But
July.
we're not having it.
Okay, well, go ahead and call it to order.
All right, meeting is called to order at 6:04. Agenda is minutes. We're gonna have a big discussion on the visioning chapter, public comment, and then we will get out of here. I put down next meeting, May 23rd, if necessary. And that's more of a threat, so we get everything done today.
like the way you're thinking.
Right.
All right. So, I've just reviewed the agenda. We have minutes from April 25. Anybody need time to review them?
They look good to me.
I have
I
a
thought they
quick
were pretty
question.
good.
Hopefully it won't take long. Line 79, the sentence says, there have been feedback from focus groups. Overall, the chapter Enfield seemed inviting to new, that would be, Enfield seemed uninviting to new businesses. I was expecting another sentence in there. Did we come to a conclusion on that, or did we just leave it hanging like that? I couldn't remember.
It was kind of hanging, because
Okay.
part of what we did was just talk about the fact that, especially in the focus group, we didn't have a lot of positive reaction to the way it was presented.
Yeah.
Like it was just, it wasn't, it needed to attract attention rather than distract. So, and we talked about the photos and
Yeah. Okay. That's all I had.
Anything else from anyone else? I forgot to do the roll call attendance, so let's backtrack.
I'll go first.
Go first.
Maynard Southard here.
Celia Alfiero.
Bridget Labrie.
Brad Rich?
Ashley Wood.
Lindsay Smith.
And David Frack. Also in attendance, Rob Taylor, Land Use and Community Development Administrator, and Randy Saxton, who today is extreme close-up view. That's better, except we can't.
He's on. There we go.
Hi, Brandy.
Hello.
Okay, we can hear you. Can I hear a motion on the minutes?
Make a motion that we approve the minutes as written.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Minutes are approved as written. Next order of business is a revisitation and rediscussion of what is visioning. And Lindsay, you're gonna lead that discussion, right?
Yeah, so, Brandy, first of all, do you still have any of the comments from the focus groups on the visioning chapters?
I do have them here. I
Uh-huh.
don't have them open, but I can make that happen.
So, well, I'll start, but I definitely want to get, before we jump into like some of the work, what I thought we would do is actually revisit these, and see if we're fine with what they are, or if there's some changes we want to make. One, couple comments that came up from various focus groups. So and I've put the vision statement up here, and I've given everybody a handout because we're gonna also go through the guiding principles. One comment with the vision is that some people had some issues with some of the word and phrases. I'm not going to pull those out at this exact moment because I want us to like have fresh minds when we're looking at every word and phrase. Every word and phrase should be intentional. Okay, so that's why we're going to relook at this with just this group. If you know, it would be great to do it with a larger, but should be intentional. We should agree that it's there, and we should know why it's there. That way, because we're not going to please everybody, people are going to just take exception with some things. Some people get triggered by anything and everything. So that's one thing we're going to do. Another comment that came up is that there is some what it like that it seems more aspirational than visioning. Yeah, we found that comment a little confusing, but also there are some people that don't understand why it's in the future tense, and that seems to put people off. That it's like, oh, because they take that as like, oh, we're not this now, versus so right. There's a couple. There's a workaround with that particular piece, and I wrote it down, but of course now, I wrote things on random pieces of paper when we met last week.
Wasn't it something to the effect of Enfield will continue to be a welcoming community?
I don't think it was continue. Brandy, what was it?
No, it was to put some additional words at the beginning along the lines of we envision Enfield to be a welcoming community, you know, blah, 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 or in the future we envision Enfield will be blah, 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 something, you know, or we envision Enfield as. So take a little bit out of the sort of sharp start of the sentence that Enfield will be piece.
Yeah.
So have a lead in.
Softening that a little bit.
That clearly
So
expresses it's a forward vision.
right.
You could say something like, the future Enfield is a welcoming community that successfully manages.
I'm not sure that gets us away from people feeling like, oh, so we're not welcoming right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think
Feels a very aggressive way to be like, we're welcoming, damn it.
I think we should definitely not.
I like that.
Future.
I know.
Can we just be blunt?
Yeah. So we'll get into this in a minute, but these are just some of the comments. What are other comments that you recall hearing? Did you find them, Brandy?
I have them up on the screen. So I can't share them, but I will summarize for you. So
Yeah.
The transportation focus group actually did not generate any comments on the vision statement and guiding principles. The land use focus group had a couple. There was a suggestion to make it a stronger statement about inviting commercial development. That wasn't universally embraced by the other members of the focus group. There was a comment about a potential conflict between the notion of maintaining rural character and embracing 21st century technology. There was further discussion of that as well, and not necessarily concurrence with everyone present about that comment. There was a comment about principle number 7 to change the word encourage to support. There was some discussion of whether support in many people's minds might equal invest or might equal spending, basically, it implies town spending. And then there was a comment on principle number 6, around the idea of further emphasizing walkability. So that was from land use. Then in the housing group, you had one member who was thought that it was the vision statement and the principles captured what had been said at the meetings that were held. She thought it was easy to digest and was happy with it. So you have one happy with with vision statement and principles. There was general, this group generally liked the straightforwardness and the direct language and sort of capturing multiple points of view. There was a suggestion to get more of an emphasis on housing affordability and a thought that there might be too much focus on recreation. And then there was also the general discussion of who is writing this statement, who is it directed to, and sort of around how the statement functions in the context of the plan. There was discussion of, this is with a group that discussed the word manage, so that idea of managing future change. There was discussion of changing that to perhaps navigate. Whether or not manage was a neutral word, some thought it was and some thought it was not. There was also discussion of necessary change, what actually constituted that. There was a suggestion to change that to acknowledge changing conditions. This was also one where there was a lot of group discussion around whether people wanted to see change in Enfield or were less open to that. So there was a range of suggestions here, changing the word necessary to inevitable. Some people thought that was like accepting whatever got thrown at you. So there was discussion of they want the language to be intentional, to suggest that Enfield is acting to control its future in some way. There was a suggestion to add a statement in here in support of private property rights and minimizing restrictive regulation or implementing the least restrictive regulation that's necessary. So that's the housing group. And then economic development. This is the group that discussed the future tense, and where the comment that because it is in the future tense, it means that Enfield's not welcoming now or not doing any of the other things that it's talking about now. There was another comment in this group around the emphasis on recreation and whether that should be the focus, and that there's a lack of discussion of economic development in the principles. There was discussion of, we talk about proximity to employment, but don't talk about having actual jobs in town, around the question of, is Enfield a place where you live and then you go work somewhere else, or, are more people living and working in town? This is also the group that talked about the word rural, and there was at least one person who doesn't think rural is a positive word, and it means, when they read it, it means sort of stay as we are, stay where we are, and not improve or grow. So there was a preference for small town over rural. There was support for principle number 4 and the reference to 21st century technology and energy in this group. So that was sort of a counter to the other group where that one had some questions raised about it. So there you are. Those are the summary of
Okay.
comments received during the focus group. Not necessarily a consensus in a lot of directions, but a lot of different viewpoints expressed.
Right. Absolutely. I think the other ones that were expressed is that the guiding principles felt a little long. And if anybody has it, because we can't find it, I know it happened, but Phil had brought up in planning board that he had written a vision statement that was like one sentence. And we all remember that.
Like our second or third.
Yeah, I would say.
No, but I can't find it.
That was a good one too. I remember us all being like, oh, that was pretty good.
We can't find
we
it,
have to get
because
feedback.
he did it as a PowerPoint on screen. That's why nobody has it.
But he has it, right? We asked him. Phil, bring it back.
Well,
We sort of alluded to it, but,
Oh.
nobody has actually reached out to him and said, Phil, we need your statement.
Oh, I'm sure if we ask him, he'll be like, oh.
I'm sure he
He
will.
probably
too.
has it like stored in his brain. Just type it back out to us.
Well, when he brought it up at planning board, or here, I can't remember where, he just said, I wrote this statement, and he didn't say what it was.
I don't know if you have a approach you're taking to this. Jump.
okay, you have a what?
I just was thinking, the one comment on the recreation piece, which I think really is kind of around number 5,
Mm-hmm.
and the economic development. I think we could just add that. The important role, so it kind of starts with Enfield recognizes the important role recreational activities play in creating social ties. A sense of community. I think within that sentence, if we could find a way to develop or encourage economic development or something. So
Okay. We're
just having conversations with
okay,
like Ed, I know that,
sure.
and I think it's not a bad idea.
So hold on to that. Because so my thought was, is like, so the guiding principles, we have 7 of them right now. And each one of them actually pertain to a slightly different chapter and some chapters that we have not gotten to. So if you look at one, is really pertains to land use. And again, I think the other piece to always keep in mind was one of the comments that we got with any of the recommendations in the chapters is that when we number stuff, that indicates priorities. And so we may bullet point them. So right now we're just gonna call them by the numbers because that's what's there. So the first one is land use. The second one is historical. The third one is revolves around economic development. The fourth one revolves around energy. The fifth one is actually recreation. And the sixth one is transportation and the seventh one is housing. And they might be a little long. We tried to throw everything into them. So I think what I want to do is a little bit of an activity, but let's just start with the vision first. This is the big piece. And what you have in front of you, I tried to give you some space here, is how to, and we may not change it, okay? So but I want to, right now, each one of these pieces of the vision is 33 words. Exactly. Amazing. And I was almost looking at this could be like at the end, but is there a way to pare this down? So Brandy already told you, manages was a problematic word for some people, and it may not be. Again, this is somebody who's like, you're not managing me, like who's Enfield to manage? We're talking about managing our own, like, so this was a problematic word. Doesn't mean we need to change it. We do not have to react to every single thing somebody says, right? Because we'll never get anywhere. Necessary change was, again, who determines what's necessary? You know,
The
like,
survey.
right, or like, and I think when we were talking about this, we were like, change is going to happen. But is it inevitable? That's where that, you know, so, those are the two main phrases. We then tried to list everything. Is there a way that we can do this in 25 words? You know, and the word count really doesn't matter. I mean, there's a game in mission statements where people try to get the most out of the smallest bit, and not necessarily envision, but this is what I was thinking, is that if we can, I do like adding, not will be, but we envision Enfield adds. And that adds, and maybe taking out this, so that's adding a couple words. Again, word count's not gonna totally matter, but this is like, because we're using as, that is a present tense, you know, like, that's, can have both things, conditional, right? Oh, somebody help me. No one else has done very much. What I wanna do is have everybody just silently work at your desks, please. Go through that and slash some words, combine something. Just give some thought, just focus in right now, just on, you can do both of these if you want. And let's just focus in on those. Don't worry about all the guiding principles. Yep.
If you were in mid thought.
Oh, yeah. And just, and let's see if we can't wordsmith this a little bit, and maybe we end up with the exact same thing. We're not necessarily gonna change it, but if you like, is there a way to switch these around to make it stronger? We don't wanna weaken it, we wanna make it stronger.
So, the 7, what are they called, principles?
Mm-hmm.
There are also 7 values up here.
Mhm.
Are we,
I'm not necessarily
Maybe we
saying,
don't-
yeah, I'm not even like, that, so I, you know, like,
I
are
just
these?
didn't know if that was intentional.
Yeah, it was,
Seems intentional.
but like also are these, but these 7 don't necessarily relate to the exact same 7, you know? Or does it?
It's like-
Are these repetitive?
Because I'm just saying it for the sense of, like, if we want to make it that shorter,
Yeah.
then taking out the list of that 7
Sure.
would make sense potentially. But if we are going to connect the 7 principles specifically to the vision, then I probably wouldn't take them out in my exercise.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, so let's not worry about the 7 principles, because these are slightly different, because they don't say transportation, housing, that kind of stuff, but these are what this is what we heard. This is how, but, is there a way to tighten this up and make it stronger? Maybe it's not. So I wouldn't slash them if you want, or keep them. Do we, I mean, I'm looking at them and think, like, well,
Okay, what I would do as an alternate would be, we envision Enfield as a welcoming community that successfully navigates change while preserving and enhancing our residents' values. Period.
okay, we'll keep that. We're not, I want everyone to work right now before we take examples, so. if you
I just cut out
Oh,
successfully,
okay,
oh,
okay,
successfully, preserve, I'd leave out the manage necessary change. I don't like the word necessary.
okay.
So, preserve and I think this good, and enhancing what our residents value. I like that a lot. And the word rule, I like to see, do something with that,
Okay,
because everybody doesn't know what it is, and
let's give everybody else a chance to just take a moment to think this through. Write down what you've written. You don't lose it. Write down your own thoughts. let's give everybody a chance to think it through. Because all of our brains work at different speeds. And then we'll try to, see what we come up with.
What was mine?
You want to write it?
Enfield, or re-envision Enfield as a welcoming community that successfully navigates change while preserving and enhancing.
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
Give my hand to that. Change while.
Preserving and enhancing our residents' values.
Full stop.
Full stop, and you can add the second paragraph or not, depending on.
You can't add the second paragraph because the first sentence is referencing the values. Right?
Why can't we keep it to the abstract and pick up the values
In the,
in the
Yep.
guiding principles?
Yep.
Okay.
Which we might call guiding values.
yeah, that's a good idea.
Celia, you had one?
What I said?
Yeah.
I've knocked out manages necessary change while preserving, and what I did was, that successfully preserve and enhance what the residents value.
Sorry, I was, so that successfully what?
What our residents value.
Did you keep manages?
No.
No, okay, so successfully, What?
Okay, successfully preserve and enhance what our residents value. And then we can list, but I would list it in another order, and I don't know what that would be. To think, what was the first thing I'd say?
well, I know the first thing you would say, no. Does anybody else have one, like have a, sort of a reworked, Ashley?
We envision Enfield as a welcoming community that navigates inevitable change and preserves and enhances what our residents value.
Okay, that navigates,
Sorry,
navigates what?
inevitable change
Inevitable change
and preserves and enhances
and preserves and enhances
what our residents value.
what our
Oh, wow.
residents value,
And then the dash and those values and take out the second
Thank you.
paragraph.
dash, and then keep the, okay.
Those seven.
Okay, so everybody's starting with the envision and field, right, as
Yep.
welcoming, so I'm gonna just, this is gonna be,
Mine is the same as Dave's with one word change.
okay?
And that one word is taking out the word, navigate.
Okay, so that successfully
Yeah. Manages, I think, is an important word.
manages,
I don't like navigate.
okay, manages change,
The rest of it is the same.
okay, while preserving and enhancing,
I think navigate is haphazard and after the fact. I think manage is proactive, and I think that's what we need to be talking about.
Well,
Okay,
on that note,
okay, so Bridget,
I was gonna add that word proactive.
okay, so what you were starting, so everybody's got as a welcoming community.
Yep.
That.
Yep.
Okay. What do you have?
Proactively navigates change while preserving,
I like that.
Proactively navigates change while what?
preserving and enhancing our residents' values.
And enhancing our residents. Oops. There's not to change their county resident values. Do you keep the list?
I'm undecided on that.
Okay.
So, but
Maynard? Do you?
So I looked at this first and said, am I confused by anything written here?
Mhm.
And I'm not.
Okay,
And if I'm not confused, then I don't have any reason to edit what's there because it came across.
okay,
So everybody's making some edits, which are fine. So my test for those edits would simply be, has it introduced any confusion? Because I didn't have any to begin with.
exactly, and that's a great, like, are we reacting just to react?
Right.
You know, I mean, that's feedback is a great process. Also, you have to edit and filter your feedback. And then also, you know, are we adding confusion? Are we changing just to change? We just want to make sure like that this is as tight as we can, because we are not going to please everybody. So we just, we don't try. Because that's when you get into a real mess. I do think there's always a way to tighten things up. So I'm interested to see, but also, or that we've gone through the process and we like where it's at. You know, this is a, I think it's always a worthwhile exercise.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying
No, yeah.
you should leave it the way it is. I'm
Sure.
simply saying
You just
that
didn't have.
I
any-
didn't have any reason to change it.
Okay,
and I wanted to get our
Huh?
proactive versus reactive language in there, so I
okay.
was thinking, that's why I kind of threw that in the.
Is there a way to get proactive language in there without actually using the word proactive?
Making them
Manage.
active.
I think, yeah, that's it. I feel like
Manage,
manage kind of
manage,
is saying
What
that.
did you
Yeah, by
say?
making them active verbs,
Uh-huh,
we kind of encapsulate the.
But I guess I was trying to,
sure.
I
if
think-
manage sound too controlling for
I think
Sometimes
people.
it's like a direct pie in the face that you
Yeah.
need, and
But-
sometimes.
I was like, fine,
you
we'll
know.
break it down.
Yeah, I
Be
think we're trying to
proactive.
replace the word manage because there was some number of people that had a problem with manage, but the fact is, manage is what we want to
Yeah, we
happen.
need something, yeah.
So,
And when we say some numbers, you know, again, these focus groups were very small. So, okay.
So Lindsay,
Yeah.
while you were writing, Rob, passed out the
Found it.
draft vision statements from Phil.
Okay,
And before we get too deeply into more changes, maybe we ought to look at what Phil said and decide if there's anything in there that we should pick from or adopt the whole thing.
okay.
And it says, Enfield is a community rich in traditions with a heritage of rural small town charm, focused on livability, strategic economic growth, and a commitment to fiscal responsibility, sustainability, and self-sufficiency. And I think that's well said.
Is it a sentence? Is there a verb in there anywhere?
Missing is,
Is,
Where is this?
I think it's missing is.
It's missing is. Just says a community. With a heritage. You passed one out to everybody? Never mind.
yeah,
Okay.
everybody's got them.
Sorry. I missed Rob even getting it up.
You had your back to all of us. We were busy writing.
Okay,
I gave you a copy too.
I see it now. And then I don't need David. Okay.
I'll just mention that when it says create measurable goals, when I read that, I think the word manage.
Sure, and that's a mission
always
statement,
gonna be.
and we're not really doing a mission statement. Right, exactly, measurable.
Taking
goals.
away my argument for navigate, and I think I'm on the manage train.
You're on the
But
managed train,
yeah.
okay.
But we're not necessarily trying to dumb this down. I mean,
No.
the whole point of this master plan is to help us as a community. The master plan is to help the community do stuff, and that means the people that are moving and shaking in the community. I'm not necessarily trying to make this an elementary school document.
No, but there's something to be said about making sure it is readable at all levels, because we're not gonna have as much as we can, and I only say this just from my line of work, right, is you lose people if you get too far, where if you break it down, like to go on a clinical trial, it's 7th or 8th grade reading level. We're not using those big words, but just that whole, like, it makes it digestible. So maybe,
That's a fair enough statement. I agree
Yeah,
with that. It's
and I don't
just-
think we have to,
it
but I'm
doesn't
with you,
necessarily mean that we have to
yeah.
ensure that it's digestible, through a huge broad spectrum.
Oh. Yeah, it's never gonna.
Well, I will say that I think Phil's is okay, but I don't really like it. I like the word livability is about the word, is the word that I pull out of there, but I think that he says strategic economic growth, fiscal responsibility, like he's saying the same thing about 4 times in 4 different ways. And it's also a community, rights and traditions with heritage of small town is a descriptor. It's not a vision. So there's that, this I find problematic in those kinds of things. Brandy, do you have any, anything you want to add? Just speak up at any point.
I'm listening to you guys and taking some notes, and sort of when you're ready to start wordsmithing, I'm ready to go.
I
Okay.
just think I remember we all really loved the livability word when he said that the first time, and I was trying to decide if there's some replacement, because I think it kind of does all equate to that. Like all of
You
the,
could you could say welcoming and livable community.
yeah. Okay. And could we then,
Or livable and welcoming.
Or calm.
I mean, does it take away anything if we add livable?
Does it add anything?
Well, I just
Besides
meant,
adding a
well,
word.
that too.
But, so that's the
Yeah.
other thing. Are we just to add it in? I mean, it's a word I think I like, but like, what does it mean? Like here, like the very thing that you don't want to have to do is you don't want to have to define something. You want people to know exactly what it means, and that's not to dumb it down, but if people go, what do you mean it's livable? So depending where you put it at there. So that's where it's a word that does come out to me, but we also had to go, well, what does that mean? And if you have to ask, what does that mean? That's not a good vision statement, I like where we're going with some of these that just have tightened up this very first part. Is mine, but.
I don't think putting livable in there is necessary.
Okay.
I mean, I guess I kind of like what we've done, like Lindsay said, because
So we like.
Yeah,
the
I mean-
feedback we got, right?
So we had, okay, let's just.
Let's say thank you to Phil, but we're on this other track.
Plus, a lot of people have seen this and for the most part like it, right? If we
Yeah.
went with Phil's, we'd be starting over.
Right.
Okay. Okay, so here's where, well, preserving. So here's where, what I see, so we manages this word, the proposed other ones was navigate. So we had changing managers to navigate, but we've got some people that are back on the managers train. Let's just dive into managers. Make your argument.
If, okay, I'll jump on the train. Maybe we take out the necessary
Agreed.
and say proactive change. And that way, because it's managing the proactive change and it's not feeling as forceful, like when you say necessary change, it's like, okay, someone has these big plans in my town and no one's telling us. Like, I mean, I could see that
How
being
about,
read
how
that
about
way.
progressively manage?
Ooh.
I would go to take out adverbs, because then that gives you
What do you
like
mean
this
by
range of,
progressively? I mean, what,
like.
I'm sorry,
success,
proactively.
A range of
Sorry.
whatever that is.
and why would it be? What are you trying to say, though, proactive
Not reactive.
changes, what?
I assume he means the opposite of reactive. In other words,
Well,
you're ahead of
proactive,
the change.
There's
somehow.
plans involved, it's being
Anticipate
managed,
the
it's
change.
with forethought. Your
Right.
budgets are set, you're saving for a rainy day, you're trying to make housing more affordable. You're planning for the future.
I would
Does
argue
anybody
that-
like the idea of evolve or evolution as opposed to change? Because that slows the process down and makes it less abrupt.
No.
Sorry. I mean, our process is pretty darn slow in Enfield. I don't know if we need to slow it down anymore. I will go on the record and say that, yeah. I'm sorry.
We could go, yeah, we could change pace a little.
I'm gonna make the argument that proactive and manage are essentially the same.
Similar.
That manage is a proactive type of verb.
So I like what Ashley was saying, and I don't know if you, about adverbs. You wanna,
So like
Yeah.
successfully manage, that kind of adds like a continuum or a range of managing that can be done, whereas manage is straightforward. So
and I
same
think,
thing with proactively, or
Yeah.
was there another one? I think that was something like
Well,
necessary,
Necessary, why not, why
Necessary,
have necessary?
right? And I think she's right. If, once you start adding adverbs, that's giving like the subjective, that's exactly what you just asked. What does that mean? And so maybe and when we pared some stuff down, we took out the adverbs, so. Because we may not always be successful at it. Everybody, like, again, the fallacy is that progress is always forward, that you're always having to move forward, and that you're always successful in any progress that you make, right? Like but, and that may be, we do want to be proactive, and I think this appears later.
So can we take out successfully and necessary?
I think
Basically, manages change.
Community that manages change.
Manages change.
You could move successfully to before preserving, so that would read manages change while successfully preserving and enhancing.
I think
I
we
like
should take
that.
it out.
I would,
Mhm.
to go down the next sentence, I think I would change the order of that list of, rural character, natural resources.
Did you put natural resources first?
Huh?
What would you put first?
Natural resources,
Uh-huh.
because that people will automatically think of the lakes as a natural resource.
Okay,
And then the next one would be, I don't know where you wanna put rural character or change it, but I would prioritize them and then put down. I had rural character too, but then I put unique heritage,
mhm,
sense of community, affordable and sustainability, that needs something to it.
okay.
And then that downtown
Downtown
vitality.
vitality.
I'm just trying to put them in a different order.
But I think that goes back to not putting things in prioritizing order of any sort. in some ways, right? Because what is one person's priority is not gonna be the same as others, so. I don't know, I mean, unless,
Just the sound of it, that's not, I'm not,
but I guess if you go from like big to small, or like big to, more precise, you could work largely and then. But then I think you start with rural and go natural.
I don't think they need to be in a very particular order, except we should start whichever is the most unifying concept that people grasp onto. Or focus groups or across the surveys, or if we can even identify that.
Or we just take all of it out and put it alphabetically. And then it's just
Exactly.
alphabetical.
Yeah, just cool.
There's like no.
Brandy, do we have a sense from the survey?
No preference.
What is the most, I can't remember if there was a question that says, what do you value the most, a value question? Do we have any, from the
Let
survey, like
me
what top priority?
look here.
Okay. Cause that may be the way to go.
I don't think it's gonna be that clear cut, but let me look.
No.
Right. And, okay, so here's an exercise, when you think of Enfield, when you close your eyes in your mind's eye, what does it look like? What's the first thing you think of?
My drive every day, which is gonna be. Route-
Really?
You mean
So
in
when
that
you go
list?
Enfield, you're like,
Well,
my
it's
drive
gonna,
every
it's
day,
gonna
I
be the
think of
lake.
Route 4?
No,
Okay.
cause I go by the lake every day.
Okay.
So it's just gonna be and usually it's the coming
It's the
home.
vision. So
It's the
remember,
coming
when we
home.
are envisioning Enfield,
Right.
what is the thing you envision
It's-
first?
It
For
would be
me,
natural
it's
resource.
an improved downtown. It's the first thing I think of every single time.
But that's an improved downtown, so that's an action. But when you think of Enfield,
I think of the current downtown.
do you really?
I absolutely
Not your
do.
family's cabin on the lake?
No,
Thinking of improved downtown, okay.
So Lindsay, we did ask the question on the survey, what do you think is the most important issue or pressing need in Enfield that the plan should address? And the 3 top themes that came out of that was cost of living. And that was by far the most frequently mentioned issue. So that was affordability of housing, rising taxes, increases in water and sewer rates kind of grouped together in a topic. And then was downtown revitalization was the next themed group. More gathering places, more small businesses,
Yeah.
more better walkability downtown, improved appearances of streets and buildings, that kind of thing. And then rural character, which was a combination of resource protection and environmental protection, and scenic views, wildlife habitat, water quality, access to outdoor recreation, those things.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna stick with I say we just alphabetize them. Because we have the guiding principles, which kind of is more of a directive type idea, like it's, where this is that culmination of what we got for feedback, right? So if we alphabetize, there's no preference, it's clear to some people maybe that it is, and we just,
Okay.
that way we're not showing any favoritism to anything, we're just stating the facts we were received.
So can
I said.
I finally found something I have a question about.
Okay.
Not sure I understand sense of community.
Okay.
And I started defining it for myself. Does that mean community involvement? Does that mean community interaction? Does that mean community support? Does it mean all those things? But does everybody know what sense of community?
Let me pose the question to the task force.
family.
Family, sense of community, what is it? What is
I
that?
mean, is there a common understanding is my question.
the answer is no. Right?
Unfortunately, it is kind of an abstract, concept. And
And
it
does it get
is.
alphabetized by S or C?
We just cut out sense of and just say community. And then state.
Like, I mean, when you hear the phrase sense of community, here's my question, what do you think of? Like, if you hear it, what creates a sense of community for you? And it'll be slightly different for everybody. It'll be my neighborhood creates a sense of community, or my involvement with the Lioness creates a sense of
A
community.
play being put on.
You know, so it depends on what your community is, but
Yeah.
it is a bit of an abstract concept, Rob.
In Plainfield, we use the word community spirit.
Community spirit.
We actually have a.
Do you guys give out
once a year-
pom-poms to everybody?
Once a year, we have a spirit night
Uh-huh.
with fireworks and barbecue and free McNamara maple creamies for everybody.
There you go.
That's
Oh,
what we.
You got McNamara there.
Wow. Can you get us free mac? I mean, they don't live here.
Bribery.
But sense of community spirit are sort of
Yeah, it's true.
synonymous, I think.
Well, that's what's kind of, I mean, I feel like community, is that the same as sense of community? Like, do you feel like you get the same point across? if
yeah,
if
you do,
just say
I think you
community
do.
Versus sense of
I
community?
don't.
It'll be a little annoying for a minute. We say community in the first
That's,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Mhm.
whatever those number words.
Okay.
So we say it twice in the sentence, and I think we need to cut out one of them.
I was also
And
thinking.
I did kind of like, I don't really remember what the second word is that you used, but you said shared something, Maynard. And I like the idea of a shared,
Hmm.
not vision, because we envision, but
Sure.
like shared commitment, shared spirit, shared.
I said community
Something or other.
involvement, community support, community. I don't even remember, there's a third community in there.
Community
Can
spirit.
we have a replay?
Can we rewind the tape real quick?
But I think it is abstract the way it's presented right now, so.
Yeah, well, and it is an abstract concept, so it is one of those that when you read it, everybody is going to have a different reaction to it, and some people may not have a reaction, and some people may go, like, I don't feel that, like, I don't feel, it's a point of connection. So a sense of community to me means connected. It means like,
Community involvement.
well, but that's a way, that community involvement is a way to create the connection. So sense of community is about the sense. It's not about community, it's about the sense. That's why it starts with that. And it's a emotional connection. I in December decided to stay here, and it freaks me out because I always have one foot out the door. Like, as much as I'm like, I'm gonna be involved wherever I live for as long as I'm here, but I'm never gonna stay anywhere, which is a great way to like not be connected,
Mhm.
not have an emotional connection to things. A little therapy here for me.
Get that.
But when I decided to stay, like, that freaks me out, because now I'm like, oh, well, I better, I'm gonna dive in deeper and
You
create an
create a
emotional
commitment.
connection, which still hasn't happened, so. But but this is about the sense, this is emotional, so this is an emotional phrase,
And emotions can be abstract.
and they are, and so, you create community spirit by things you do, you can create your sense of community by the things you're involved with, and that's why it means different things to everybody. Do we want people in Enfield to have a pride in the place they live in? Do they want them to feel connected to this town? Or do we want them to just sleep here? I think that's the thing. And so you do this, you create this emotional connection by farmers markets, by keeping town meeting. That was like one of the biggest pleas for keeping town meeting as town meeting, was the connection of community in that, and the democracy.
Old Homestead Week.
Old Homes Day weekend, like the things that bring people together.
So
Those are the actions of creating this sense.
if we go back to kind of what Ashley was saying, can we change that first community to something else?
Be a welcoming, okay?
And do we need 7 values?
We don't need 7 values. We don't need 7 values. In fact, I would argue that we take out, we would use livability here. I would say
I
that
thought we
we
had to
put that
define
in because it
livability.
would be those two.
If we
And then we offer, and then we can highlight it and put the definition in. It's like,
No, I don't
Why don't we say
I don't-
town? because we are a town.
Welcoming town,
I was thinking a welcoming town, a welcoming
okay,
place, but town's probably better.
because we are a town, that is our actual,
We are not a city.
Community is
With our
more
political
descriptive though.
status.
Community is more descriptive than town.
Yeah, I guess I was just, if I was going, I was rolling with like what Ashley said, if we had the community piece twice, if we take the first one out, the town with a sense of community, it's still. I see what you're saying.
So this assumes that we're keeping the, rural character, natural resources, et cetera.
forget, I just haven't crossed them off. We haven't made
If
any
you don't
final.
keep any of those, you can keep the first community, right?
And the rural character was
Slash.
named as one of the three things that Brandy just read off to us.
Right.
Affordability also, and then downtown, I don't know exactly what the wording was.
It was for revitalization.
I think affordability is an important word to keep.
Okay, so we leave affordability.
Natural resources was also mentioned.
Yeah, so natural resources was part of rural character. Rural character can have, again, it's an abstract concept, because it can mean people, when you hear rural character, you think of farms maybe, or
People.
what, you think
It's a
of,
big, it's a word that can mean a million things.
sure,
What if we say rural charm? I'm only saying
Urban
that.
charm.
I'm like, well, I'm throwing it out there for those in our group who were not keen on the rural word. So I was trying to just make it shine a little.
I would avoid doing that. I know the tendency is to want to like, oh, we can make this more appealing, let's make this
Well, yeah,
like shining up things and.
I was just thinking that for those who maybe have that sense, it's also showing that there's that positive way to say rural. I mean, first of all, we're not gonna get away with it. It is the definition of what we are.
Well,
You
that's
can't really say we're not rural.
That's somebody's hang up on rural.
Yeah,
You know, like that's, because some people do have a hang up on rural, because they feel like it's, then, and we get into this with
Rural is not,
guidepost number 6, where it's like, we can't be rural and 21st century, which is not true.
absolutely,
yeah, that's
I
rural.
agree.
Farm and forest,
Farm and forest.
farms and forests and lakes and ponds. It's a rural.
Which is rural.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. I
Rural
mean,
is
that's,
a
it
good
is what
word.
it
It
is.
is what we are, and it's what we want to remain.
I think we need to stick with a definition of rural, and I thought we had decided that we're going to use the federal housing definition that Enfield and even, I think, Lebanon are considered rural because they're not urban or suburban.
The whole upper valley is rural, even Hanover is considered rural. Because we just don't have the population in our proximity to stuff. They're not suburbs of anything, and they're definitely not cities. Okay, welcoming. This is good, it's tedious. I know, it's tedious, but this is how we get to something that's tight. Usually I'll do a whole day workshop just to get a vision statement, so. Welcoming town, welcoming community, that, we're gonna take out successfully, we're gonna keep manages, right? So far, that, manage it. I'm just gonna, change. Maybe we'll leave a little space there. We'll see if we need inevitable, or we just say change, like manages change. While, do we all, while? What was it?
Well, what's the change? That's what I would add.
Sure, what is the change?
What's coming that's
Well,
managing
It's like,
change?
it's gonna depend on, yeah, life is, there is always change. It's, sometimes it changes forward, sometimes it changes back, but like the death, taxes and change are guaranteed. Nothing stays the same.
So
I think that's the problem when you have people like, I don't want any change. Regardless if you don't want it or not, life changes. You age every day. So your body literally changes every day. It
Right.
gets a day older.
we can use what was used plenty of times with the dollar store, right? And not managing it tightly enough. Like, you know, would that have been done differently? If we were really focused on kind of this, would we have done that differently?
Mhm.
So again, that's being the proactive to what we're bringing into town versus the reactive. So we want to preserve our natural resources and we have to be proactive about that. So we kind of have to manage what's coming in or at us.
That's.
So I think that's what the change is, though, it was people are gonna wanna move in or businesses might wanna come, so what do we play as a role? We have to manage it.
Right.
I
And it
mean,
is
that's the
check
point
this
of
out.
having a zoning board, of having a planning board, of having a town manager, is that change is gonna happen and we have to have people that are willing. If not, we would just be,
Managing, yep,
we would all just be living in our homes.
climate change too.
Climate change, so that's where.
That's gonna be a big one.
Right, which is why we don't define exactly all those changes, but just the change is gonna happen. Okay. I think, we had a what our residents value and or taking out the what our residents values. Again, it's a little bit of like what our residents value or staying and enhancing our residents' values.
I say we do that, the what?
Enhancing our and people might ask us this, but say we to the survey.
That's apostrophe.
Well, it also could change over time, and as a mission statement, there's nothing wrong with having something in there that can change over time. Of the values today may not be the values in 10 years,
Right,
but that doesn't mean you have to change the statement.
Right.
We're not calling out the values,
right.
we're just saying,
Well, that's where, if we don't call out the values, then we leave all of these things off, and we just say full stop here.
that makes
Boils it down to a very succinct sentence once we fill in the blanks.
We could, so let's just play with, we take out the naming the values. Okay, so maybe we take out, and I'm just gonna go back to this one. And sure, this part, we take out this, because like, Enfield will offer a high quality of life. So again, we've called out recreation access, convenient proximity. Do we leave this?
Then you get into high and unparalleled and
Right, we've
convenient,
got unparalleled.
just to be that person again.
Sure, no. This is
Convenient
exactly
as
why
well.
we're doing this. We did it and
Yeah.
but we have to come back to it and see what we've tightened up. Or do we just say, this is our vision statement?
I think you have to put down the values, because that really spells
Okay.
it out.
What
Okay,
do we need the last
I
part?
mean, that really is.
maybe we cut the
that's
last
the-
part.
You don't think, so? You
Okay.
don't think that's-
I was
you don't think that's a good idea?
Oh, I was saying no to something, but I think there were two things being said at once, so
Yeah.
I don't know which one.
What were you saying no to?
I was saying, I don't remember. I think I was saying no to that,
Just leave
but
Oh,
that we
okay.
do need the values.
Yeah.
I think. I was
Leave the
involved in two
first
different
part.
conversations at the same time.
I think you gotta keep community up front.
Okay. Keeping community over here.
Yeah. I
Community
don't like town as well.
is a welcoming town, is a welcoming community.
yeah, I like community better.
I mean, I do
Community?
like community better,
Okay.
I just. It's my out there.
Because we know it's a town. I mean, it is the political designation of it. But maybe someday we become a city, then we'd have to go and change the, the vision statement, because that's just that's a political designation of how your government is.
Would you say you could say?
That manages. Do we need necessary, do we need to qualify, do we need to enhance the word change, or do we just leave it, manages change? Inevitable, Cause it is like, there is,
I think change. I don't
Yeah, I
think
think
you
we
need
leave
to.
it.
I like Ashley's point about looking at your adverbs and seeing if they're helping you at all.
okay. While, and again, we hopefully we're gonna be successful, but we might not be. There are.
Yeah,
Make wrong moves.
I'd say you don't put that in there because I feel like it's a possible setup. In the wrong hands. It's a possible setup.
So now our residents' values, we have rural character, natural resources, unique heritage. I'm just gonna, downtown vitality, sense of community, affordability, sustainability.
What if
Uh-huh.
we change that second community to sense of belonging? It's kind of what we were saying that is intended to mean, right? Sort of, mostly.
That's, I don't like that.
Okay.
It's awfully something.
I mean,
To me, it's less meaningful than community. It's too touchy-feely, said the old guy.
Okay,
Rob
so,
and
You-
Phil and say
You could
collaborative.
consider, oh,
yeah,
sorry.
What do you got,
could
Frankie?
consider replacing sense of community with connectivity, which both encompasses a big component of sense of community, but also could speak to other types of connectivity as well. You know, transportation connectivity, things like that. Regional connectivity.
Connectedness.
I mean, I feel like those are what we were trying to define with the sense of community.
right, or if we take out upper valleys, employment and like,
Yeah.
okay.
And again, that's kind of almost being blunt instead of trying to mean something. We
Yeah.
just say what we mean. So what it's intended to mean. It also gives it one word. Correct. No, oh, good. Forgot that. Metal detector?
No, a child in the parking
Did it hit and roll probably? Just like,
lot. I don't know. I think he lost it.
that's right.
I alphabetized it. It's right that way. I alphabetized
I
it.
saw that. It's making me happy.
Now, so I've got affordability, connectivity, downtown vitality, natural resources, rural character, and unique heritage. And I alphabetized it by the first word if there was a,
I think connectivity is confusing in that.
I think it is too.
okay,
I agree.
okay.
And my only other thought is, do we need to add unique heritage? We have one, but I guess so.
I would make a case for that, because when we did the visioning workshops, the sense of, the source of pride was our, and again, maybe it was, again, just the people that showed up, but was
Yeah.
like Whitney Hall, our connection to the Shaker community, like our very unique heritage that we have. We have a scenic, we're gonna have a scenic byway. We have 2 historical markers. I think there's that. So that's where I would keep it.
So-
The Mascoma Bridge
So
was a
kill connectivity and keep the rest.
kill connectivity.
But then we took it all out completely. No, we're not worried about it.
Is there, all right, so let's,
What do we add in?
how do we have, all right, so what's another way to say,
Identity,
well, is it identity? It's connecting with neighbors, it's creating
Belonging.
community, it's belonging. Okay, so we've got belonging.
I think it's too touchy-feely.
But again, why are we, like, what if we
Well,
just tried to put in what we were trying to define with sense of community? So those were the
We
things we
just
were trying to
say-
define, right?
It's okay to use the same word twice.
We can do
Not.
that. Your English teacher is like,
No,
Who is the English teacher here?
well, that's fine.
What do we have?
Are
Affordability,
you really?
downtown vitality,
If there's two
natural
separate
resources,
sections,
rural character, sense of community, and unique heritage.
I'm sorry I brought up sense of community.
No, don't
If I
be.
kept my mouth shut, we would have gotten through this a lot faster.
Well, unfortunately, Maynard, this is not a process to get through. You gotta go through it. This is the process of making a tight vision statement, and we just gotta do the work.
Wordsmithing by committee is sometimes challenging.
It is, but this is how it's done, and this is actually very beneficial, so it's, this is what we're here to do today, so. How do we feel? We wanna sit with this for right now? We can come back to it?
I think we risk overthinking this.
Okay,
We'll come
sure.
back too much further.
Okay.
On May 23rd.
I mean, we have these
Yeah.
things, affordability, cost of living was the number one, downtown revitalization was the number two. Rural character was number three. But I do think that when we think of rural character, we are thinking of our natural resources, and I feel like lakes get mentioned more. So that we keep in natural resources. We could take out rural character here. No, okay,
I said,
Yeah, I like it.
yeah, I kind of like it. I like this.
okay, let's leave it as this right now.
Oops.
Great, and then we're gonna take out the second part. So now we have a much tighter vision statement, and then we take out this whole piece.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Okay, and we can leave some of this,
So you have to step back, now that
Yeah.
you've done that, you have to step back and say, okay, does this give me the vision? In other words, if I'm Fred Flintstone and I read this, have I got a vision?
hmm,
Or have we whittled it down so much that all Fred sees is a stick? There's no shape to it because the whittling took away all the nuance.
I think if you look at this vision statement as sort of an extended headline,
mhm.
it encapsulates what our master plan is all about and what Enfield is and hopes to continue to be as it grows.
Yes, for everybody that's on their phones, clap.
Mhm.
Okay,
I will not be insulted if you disagree with me.
I think it's good. I mean, like for me, the hardest part is this downtown vitality. I think we envision having it. I think we don't, and we continue to make moves that are completely contradictory to that.
I agree.
But it's an interesting priority to have when we don't actually then work at it. I was up in Hardwick for a while.
Just so you know, there's actually stuff happening there. So like the planning board
Okay.
just approved the Kelleher project to put in some apartments.
Yep, and they also gave them a variance to not have first floor
Yep.
businesses, which
Yep.
is
Yeah,
not
Not
downtown
the
vitality.
planning board, zoning
The zoning
board.
board.
Do not blame
Yeah.
it on
Well, I'm
my-
not trying to blame. I'm trying to say there's something, we're gonna have new buildings on Main Street. When was the last time we had new buildings on Main Street?
New residential buildings, on-
That's not my point.
not mixed
New
use.
buildings.
Right.
There's gonna be new buildings. That hasn't happened in 60, 70 years.
Mhm.
So.
Sure.
One new building.
Maybe 100.
Well, it's however many,
At-
yeah,
At the
dwelling
risk of
units.
creating more questions, did we take out sustainability
Oh,
on purpose?
I wasn't sure. I felt like,
It's
No.
one word, so maybe it won't take too long. Flat on.
well, you didn't want 7.
No, I said I didn't want sense of community.
Okay, so we can, so sustainability and unique heritage. and
I'm not
scrap the
making
sense
a
of
case
community.
for it, I'm just asking because.
No, I think
Very discussed.
I just missed it, and, yeah, I just missed it. What do we encapsulate in sustainability?
I mean, that's your whole, you know, be resilient, be energy efficient. And that goes into transportation, housing, and
Okay.
a few other things, municipal facilities. And why are you taking out sense of community?
Because they're getting too long. We need to scratch something. So, what about rural character?
No.
Why do we need to scratch something?
Okay, sense of community and sustainability.
I'm only asking the question because I want to know the answer. Why do we need to scratch?
We don't need
don't.
to.
Okay.
But we also don't need to throw every single thing that we have in there. And that's where, when we look at the next step, we've thrown every single thing in there. So that's part of the like paring down. And so that's why it's like, does this get captured somewhere else? Does rural character get captured somewhere else? Does, you know, so that's where, are we repeating ourselves?
I think we're gonna, to an extent, we're gonna repeat all of those either in the
Mhm.
7 paragraphs or in the chapters themselves.
Right, they should be repeated in the 7 principles and in the chapters themselves, absolutely. But also, we don't have to mention every single thing that ever happened, so that's why, but we can keep them all, absolutely.
No, but you definitely want somebody who reads the mission,
Mhm.
who reads the vision, who may never read anything else,
Mhm.
Right,
to have a sense
Sure,
of what you're covering.
yeah,
yep.
okay. So let's dive into the principles. And, we're gonna make it a little shorter. So I'm gonna have you work in teams a little bit. So number 1 is land use. And, so we're gonna take 5 minutes in your teams, and if you don't have a team partner, then, you just do it yourself.
Lindsay?
Yeah,
Could I raise a point here?
yeah.
You classified principle number 1 as land use.
Uh-huh,
It's really more of a natural resource
okay,
issue and is not it doesn't take in the full. I would say it's 1 and 3 together that cover land use.
okay.
More so than just 1. So I don't know if you're thinking about reorganizing them by topic, you might want to think about how 1 and 3 relate to one another.
So 3, you wouldn't say is economic development? I mean, they
No.
all overlap.
They do overlap.
Which is why I think is what relates to the comment that there isn't an economic development one. There isn't.
Okay,
It's not that, economic development isn't a component of, having a vibrant downtown, but it's not,
it
one
says
thing doesn't
economic
equal the other.
vitality. It also says promote and enhance economic vitality, right in it.
This might be quicker just to go through one of them as a group.
One
by
at a time?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I think so too.
okay,
Because then we can talk about the
sure.
Yeah.
overlap, the connectivity, another.
7, whatever, however many there are, principles are the principles and the vision for the entire plan. They're not just the chapters we're doing, correct?
Correct. But it doesn't mean that each chapter is gonna get a guiding principle.
Right,
Right.
right. And it's not a 1-to-1 or anything.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not a 1-to-1, because we're gonna add in more chapters, and they should see themselves somewhere in this guiding principle, but that's where, I think to Brandy's point, like, I mean, I would see economic development in number 3, Whereas I guess the economic development group didn't, because it says economic vitality and it talks about downtown and vibrant community hubs. But it also talks about heritage and rural character. It's got a lot in there.
I mean, you could say in number 3, no, we're not there yet, but
No, I like these, I gotta tell you.
yeah.
I don't have a problem with.
And right, we don't have to change them,
Yeah,
just because
I don't know who wrote these, was it you?
we did, we all did.
And I mean, this is going for review for, I mean, the planning board's gonna review and give feedback too, right?
Well, I think the
The
plan.
planning board has given its feedback.
Mhm.
Did they want these changed?
They only had a couple of major changes, and it was really, one was about priorities,
Yeah,
Right.
right? And what was the other one, I forget.
there were, you know, a bunch of, comments having to do with, essentially, what kind of a document is this? Is it a technical document that requires citations and footnotes?
Yeah.
Or is it something else?
Yeah.
And there was, and I think there was one planning board member who was very strongly in favor of it being written like a technical document with citations for everything. And I think this group and also when Lindsay and Brandy and I went over those comments, we kind of decided that it is not the kind of document that needs to have all sorts of references and footnotes and.
You want people to read it.
It needs to be readable, exactly.
If I was to suggest one change for number 3,
Mhm.
that I feel like pulls a little bit away from economic development in a way, it would be that Enfield Village will integrate the Northern Rail Trail and Mascoma Lake into the public realm. I almost feel like that's something that could go to number 5, since that's more of a recreational, like those are 2 recreational type things, right? Natural resource, boats,
So pull
whatever,
out that entire sentence,
and like move it to number 5.
yeah.
Because that, I feel like that, I don't know what, I don't know, that's just, I was trying to see if that would, again, kind of tighten that thought up, and it is more of how you can take recreation and again, connect it to nearby centers of population activity, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's off topic in the rest of the. It isn't, it is not off topic. Sorry.
On number 3, like if I made a change, I would take away the last sentence. I just feel like it repeats. But, I guess it is depending on, like, there's multiple topics in each one of these, for the most part. And 3 reads like there's a lot there. There's just a lot in it. That one feels like it's the whole kitchen sink.
In number 3.
In number 3.
What if for the last 2 sentences, we said Enfield will concentrate growth in our downtown and village areas and link downtown to nearby centers of population and activity?
Okay. Let's do that again. So can you,
So the
so
first part of the last sentence and the second part, of the second to last.
Enfield will concentrate growth in our downtown and village areas. Yeah.
And link downtown to nearby centers of population and activity.
Link.
I think that's the gist of what you're saying.
What exactly do we mean by integrating the rail trail and the lake into the public realm?
Well, we just took that out.
If we take that in.
Well, we haven't,
If we were to keep it in, what does it mean?
So
by it?
I envision kind of what, and just having had conversations with Ed, right, is our recreation can very much be a part of our economic growth and development. And I feel like that's kind of trying to hint to that, but I'm not sure that it's very clear why, I think the activity, nearby centers of population activity, I mean, that kind of is gonna be
I
our,
mean, that's good.
those two things, and it's, it's. That's just how I see it, was like trying to put that piece in there. But do we need it? That's just it right there, anyway.
And I imagine we'll expand on it when we do that chapter
For sure.
True. Yeah.
in a big way, based on conversations there.
I think that why we highlighted the Northern Rail Trail and Mascoma Lake as that, again, is trying to acknowledge that we have this rail trail that goes through, which is, which differentiates us in some ways. It doesn't differentiate us from all the other towns that it goes through, but it is a linkage point. It is a way to get to other places, and it is different. Like, there's only one, I shouldn't say that because I don't know, but there, the Northern Rails Trail is a historic kind of site. Do we need to call it out in our guiding principles? I don't know if we do. Do we need to call out Mascoma Lake when we talked about our natural preservation? I think we have, in some of these, I would make the case that we have repeated ourselves multiple times. We've talked about our natural resource base, protecting our water resources. So then do we have to say again in another one, our lakes? And I think we say constantly, which it's not that it's not important, but I don't know if we have to say in almost 3 of these, protect our commitment to natural resource protection, our commitment, our wildlife habitats. And I think we've said that multiple times.
Are you talking about 3?
I'm talking about 3, but I'm also in 5. In the recreation one,
Right.
we have an and while highlighting community's commitment, like I would take that piece out. I would talk
Would-
about recreation.
Would you be, what do you think of putting the, Northern Rail Trail and that whole sentence in 5?
I just don't think we need it at all.
That's a
Or,
big deal for a lot of people.
okay,
But it's in the chapter, is what we're saying, like, these are the guiding principles, but the details are then in those chapters. So while we can talk about, we have natural resources, do we have to list them here?
We don't-
Or do we just, obviously, we have them,
We don't list
Yeah.
any specific landmarks in the other 6.
right, that's the point. It's like, I don't think we necessarily need to name it. It is an important piece and and it has its place in different chapters, for sure. Is it
Then
part
I
of the,
take it out.
is it part of the guiding principles? Like, is that a guiding principles, is to say,
No, not by, no.
I think it's definitely part of our recommendations and our recognition that we have this, and it should be part of a economic development. I would love it to be. Again, was that a consideration when they, not gonna bring up the,
So does everybody agree to take that out?
Which one?
I would say,
I think that's good.
I think we say full stop and enhance economic vitality, and then we take out Enfield Village will integrate the Northern Rail Trail and Mascoma Lake into the public realm, linking downtown to nearby, and we just take that out. And then it's like, okay, so traditional New England settlement pattern, designed by revitalizing our downtown and villages into vibrant community hubs that celebrate and respect our heritage, maintain small town character, and promote and enhance economic vitality. We repeat ourselves, which I'm not opposed to. Enfield will concentrate growth in our downtown and village areas, which I feel like we've just said.
Yeah.
To preserve the farms and forests that are foundational in the rural character residents value. I feel like that's just, we repeat that, and that could show itself in other places, like, I think we almost full stop at enhance economic vitality.
I
Well, the
agree.
thing-
Agree with
The,
that.
the thing about that last sentence,
Uh-huh.
though,
Yeah.
it's gonna appeal to the people that are concerned that we are going to have this creep that goes out from the downtown area and it's gonna take over the
Mhm.
forests and the farms that are the foundation of our rural character. So I find the last sentence an important sentence.
Okay,
I agree with Maynard because it's saying much of what the first sentence says, but in different terms that will mean different things to different people.
Yeah.
As
Okay.
Maynard points out.
But what about, I know you're saying using the sentence that Ashley kind of, two
Word-
sentences
yeah.
that she restructured, right? Okay,
Can you say that again?
She's talking about-
is that,
Can you restate
Me?
somebody?
I can, you can.
I thought you were talking about using the sentences as is, but the sentence that I had suggested was Enfield will concentrate growth in our downtown and village areas and link downtown to nearby centers of population and activity. But I think what you're saying is that you want to keep Enfield will concentrate growth, blah, 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 through value, which I actually don't think is bad.
So
Yeah.
So you're only taking out the one sentence.
yeah, so
Yeah.
we're just taking out the
Second to
middle
last sentence,
sentence,
yep.
and then we're leaving the first and the second
Yep.
as is,
Yep.
which I like. I think that just tightens it up. It does keep the foundational rural character, the forest, we know that, and so it mentions it there. And it's like, we're trying to concentrate where we do growth, and it's not just, I agree.
And it also, the first sentence kind of states, what we are now, how we grew to this point. And the second sentence says, or the last sentence, what will then be the second sentence, but what is now the last sentence, kind of restates that and says, we like this, we're gonna continue to have, we're gonna strengthen the downtown and the villages, and we're gonna preserve the farms and forests.
Okay, I think that's good on 3. I think we just take out that middle sentence and that tightens it up. I do see it, and if we're missing the economic development piece here, for me, I see it, but if we're missing that, we want to make sure. I think number 1 is fine. We leave that one as is, 2 sentences. Is what I think our goal should be, no
Yeah.
more than 2 for each of these guiding principles, maybe as a way to, we're really sticking to the core principle. I like number 1.
So,
But we do say
Can
character of
I-
our community a lot, quality of life, go ahead.
if we try to keep it to
Where
2
are we going
sentences,
What, are you on number 1?
I am on number 5,
Okay.
because it's the one that doesn't
Hold
seem
that.
to stick
So
to
can you
your
hold that for a
statement.
second? Because I just want to look at number 1 really
Yep.
quickly.
Didn't we just do that?
No, we did, I just want to say, is number 1 okay? Like, I like.
Approved.
Approved, thank you.
Yes.
Let's just look at number 2 really quickly. We don't have to have discussion if it's not necessary. Can we leave number 2 as is?
I think so.
2
Yeah.
sentences,
Yep.
heritage, great. We've done number 3. I also personally really like number 4. I think it's completely succinct.
I
And
think-
yes, we can have rural and 21st century technology.
You know,
Uh-huh.
I've said this many times,
Sure.
but with all the things that I read about climate change and the things that can help us
Mhm.
in those challenges, and a lot of it's the forest and the air we breathe and all that, and I'd like to see that in 4, if that is, because it's not just the technology, it's this other piece, the climate, and, it's right there at the door.
Well,
But that's-
We're
that's what
talking
that
about
says.
environmentally progressive strategies, and that kind of encompasses a lot of that. Would you think, Celie?
Progressive,
Environmentally, and it
Yeah.
has the clean and renewable energy
well,
sources,
it's
so we,
21st century technology.
but we have to use that for clean and renewable energy sources,
Right,
solutions.
environmentally progressive strategies and clean and renewable energy sources and solutions. Enfield will commit to promoting energy efficiency in all municipal and public operations. That's all solar and, you know, that it's more technical than the climate change,
So here's,
what's needed in climate change.
here's my slight counter. So we say preserves rural character in the very first sentence. Enfield will be a town that supports and preserves rural character. Before we even, while simultaneously, so we talk about the rural character. If you look back at number 3, we just kept preserve the farms and forests that are foundation of the rural character.
Right,
I think we risk if we mention forests in every single one, I mean, I know it's a natural resources are priority, but we risk we run the risk, that's the phrase I'm looking for, of repeating ourselves a lot or just using the same thing. So is that necessary?
well,
Sometimes it is.
I don't think people realize the importance of all of it.
Well, but it gets expanded in the chapter, remember, these are just like, these are the principles. What does environmentally progressive strategies mean? We outline that, and one of them is understanding the importance of forests. I mean, I'm just wondering, because
Well,
we've mentioned
I
it.
think of broadband and solar energy, I think that is technical.
Sure, that's 21st technology, comma, there's a comma, this is,
Yeah.
it's environmentally progressive strategies is not broadband, you know, I mean, it could be, but like, how do we, I don't know.
And I think clean and renewable energy sources and solutions, that is addressing climate change. We wouldn't even look at those if we didn't care about it, you know?
How's it addressing the climate change?
That's why we're trying to go that way, to clean and renewable energy sources, because we know what is causing climate change, which was not those. You know, I think
I
that's,
see what
you know,
you're saying.
so like, I think that
I see what you're.
we're saying it, but we're not
The
saying
causing
it that way,
things, right.
you know, like
I see what you're saying.
we're trying to get away from things that are causing climate change
Right,
by doing this.
I see what you're saying.
Do we need to call out climate change?
I don't think so. Not here.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's-
Okay, so we're on to number 5. So Bridget, you had an idea here.
Well, you wanted to try to keep it at 2 sentences. So I feel
Not a
like,
hard and fast rule. You just
no,
gotta
but
get
I
it
feel like
done.
it kind of repeats itself,
Okay,
right? So we have they're gonna maintain and enhance public recreation access and amenities. So we're maintaining and enhancing access. Strive to provide all residents with access to a variety of recreation facilities. Like, I feel like that's the same thing.
Yeah, you could cut the second.
So I think we
sentence.
could cut that second sentence right out of there
Yep, I agree.
okay.
I agree too.
and then leave it, the rest of that,
Wow, and I did have an addition.
minus adding maybe
I
economic
had-
development in
Take
there.
a
You're not
The
allowed.
second sentence.
second sentence.
I had a potential addition.
Okay.
It would be, and again, I love to have a lot of ands and in commas. I'm a comma
She's
queen.
keeping it to 2 sentences.
I know. Enfield recognizes the important role recreational activities play in creating social ties and sense of community and economic growth. Because you mentioned that you and Ed were just talking about how recreation adds to economic growth.
I think it can.
So my question is, do we put that in here? Yeah, Brandy?
I think this is a place if you want to trim some words. If you've got creating social ties, you could ditch sense of community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Replace with.
And can we add in economic growth?
I like social ties better than sense.
Me too.
Then we don't say community.
And then
And we don't say
Very
community, okay.
Um,
Can we add in economic growth and?
Yeah,
its
and
role
and supporting economic growth.
And
So
supporting,
in creating social ties and supporting economic growth,
oh, I like that.
Yeah,
or
that works.
spurring economic growth or something
ooh,
like
I like that better.
Spurring?
that. Like spurring?
I like spurring.
Yeah, it's got spurs in it. And then we can take a
Well,
horse
I feel like
race
spurring is less
just to throw waffles.
pushy. In a way, right? Because I feel like if we say
Spurring?
supporting, we're gonna be like, what are you doing? You
Yeah,
know?
got it. Can we move Enfield recognizes the important role to the first sentence?
Okay, it's a stronger sentence.
I think so.
Switch those two.
Mhm.
Info recognizes the
Leads to
important
our
role of
values
recreational
instead of
activities,
our-
playing, creating social ties,
I like
and are we spurring or supporting? Supporting economic growth.
I was liking the spurring, like I said, I just felt like it was less pushy than,
Really? It feels spiky to me.
Spurring,
it feels what?
Spiky?
I mean, yeah, I guess if you read that one too.
I mean, I think of spurs and I think of digging it into a horse's side and it's.
Well, okay, so maybe we wouldn't use spurring, maybe we would,
encouraging.
Promoting.
encouraging,
Promoting.
Promoting.
I like supporting.
I mean, I like that too, I was just trying
think it
to
does
avoid the,
support.
like,
What is?
we're building, you know,
That's
skyscrapers.
gonna
in
get
town,
back to somebody's argument about,
Buildings and skyscrapers.
supporting affordable housing. Are we gonna, is the town gonna be building affordable housing?
Yeah, I guess I was trying to like
Okay, so not support,
encourage.
Fostering.
Promote's good.
not fostering.
Promote.
Promoting
Promotes
I
is
like
good.
promoting. That feels,
Proactive.
proactive, thank you.
We're gonna keep that in there.
Promoting economic growth, and then Enfield will be a town that maintains and enhances public recreation access and amenities. Can we say for all residents?
Yep.
Because I think that trying to make sure that I want to add in for all residents because I want accessibility to be at as always as part of the conversation.
Yep.
And so,
Is it just the resident?
Not really. Money's money in my opinion.
oh, for all. For all,
I mean, it is.
For all
Not gonna say no if they
persons,
wanna come pay
for
to
all,
get
just
here.
For
full
all.
stop.
For all.
Oh,
One for all.
Right,
All for
because then
one.
we get into like, who gets to park here?
Right.
All right,
Priorities, residents.
that's 5.
Take all money.
Just
Number
you, me,
6.
The people with disabilities, that
Infill will be a town that provides safe roads and convenient public transportation alternatives. Infill will encourage walking and biking throughout the town with pathways, sidewalks, bike lanes, scenic roads, and road trails, forming a network connecting residential areas with our downtown, the lake, and adjoining communities.
I'm okay with it.
I'm okay with it. I'm
Okay.
only gonna ask one question.
Oh, sure.
One question.
Did we put all of this here to define what we could otherwise call complete street approach?
I think we did,
Okay.
and I don't think a
I
lot
thought
of
so.
people know what complete street.
I thought so, but I was just gonna say, if we were to shorten it, that's the only thing I feel like.
Yeah, but we can't, because then we need to define
But
it,
yeah,
we
they
get back to here again.
Yeah,
and we
okay.
say Enfield will encourage walking and biking throughout the town to form a network connecting residential areas with our downtown, the lake, and adjoining community. Take out the list of pathways, sidewalks, bike lanes, scenic roads, and others that we will go into in the chapter.
I like
does
that.
scenic roads belong in
There.
this list?
Good question, because they usually are.
I like,
Because they're not suited for biking and some of them are hazardous to walk.
Scenic roads,
Yeah,
they're mostly dirt roads that block.
I like Ashley's, like with a network of, you said pathways, so keeping in pathways or a network
oh, I like that
Um,
work.
Walking and biking throughout the town to form a network
to form.
connecting blah, blah, blah.
To form a network, and then just take out pathways, sidewalks, bike lanes, scenic roads, and that gets pulled out.
That would be in the
Yeah, well,
chapter.
you're taking those out?
Yes.
Well, this
Because
is the
network is
proposal
all
on,
those
one
things.
motion at a time, this is the proposal, yeah. The idea would be that then that gets expounded in the chapter of what a network looks like versus in the guiding principle.
So we take that out.
Because I feel like we already did that with the taking out the rail trail in Mascoma Lake. We got rid of kind of
Will
that like.
encourage walking and biking
detail.
throughout the town
Bigger
to
picture.
form or maybe with a network. Will encourage walking and biking throughout the town to form.
Yeah,
I think a network is too ambiguous.
Okay,
you like the list?
I like the list. And then we expand upon it in various chapters.
But
Well, it's
How are you
important to
gonna
get,
expand
it's
that?
important to get the word sidewalks in there because it was mentioned.
Sure.
Yeah, I wasn't-
Yeah.
so Enfield will encourage walking and biking throughout the town with pathways, sidewalks, bike lanes, scenic roads, and road shoulders.
Maybe end it at scenic roads and take out the road shoulders, sort of redundant.
Okay,
Yeah, bike
That's what
lanes
bike lane
kind of
is.
covers
Yeah.
does it?
road
'Cause
shoulders.
those of us that ride bikes, we don't have bike lanes.
Let's say if they actually put one in.
We don't,
This is, we're aspiring to.
we
do
don't have bike lanes and we don't actually have road shoulders either.
Right.
to
Well,
ride
this is
on.
future.
Okay. Throughout the town with pathways, sidewalks, bike lanes, scenic roads,
Forming a.
forming,
Yep,
and then we keep network there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
That what,
I would
Go ahead.
say that I agree with David's point that scenic roads isn't, one of these things is not like the others.
uh-huh.
Scenic roads is a bit out of that list.
Especially for biking and walking, scenic roads is definitely a driving. I mean, as a cyclist, they are nicer to go on
They are,
sometimes because they've
yeah.
been maintained. But it's not necessarily you don't do that to get somewhere, you do that to recreate. So throughout the town with pathways, sidewalks, and bike lanes. Forming, and because then that's a network that's connecting residential areas with our downtown, the lake, and adjoining communities. And we take out scenic roads and road shoulders. Are we all okay with that?
I'm good.
Okay, all right, last one. Enfield will be a town that expands the range of housing options available to support a diverse, inclusive, and multi-generational community in a manner that aligns with our character and values. Enfield will encourage housing in and near
Eeyore.
Eeyore.
near our villages where it can be serviced by existing public infrastructure.
Based on the feedback, I would add affordable before housing.
Okay. Affordable, yeah, range of affordable housing options.
People are gonna read that and they're gonna say, we are gonna be putting in trailer
Low
parks and all
Yeah.
sorts of low-income housing, and I think we're
Yeah,
gonna get
we've already put
bad
in range of
reaction.
housing. Isn't that what we're trying to say?
Yeah,
There's gonna be a range of housing. Some will be affordable, some will be the McMansions. There's gonna be a range.
So you could put the word affordable after it, so it could go, the rate, it expands. Let's see, I have to tweak the sentence, just a minute. Enfield will be a community with a range of housing affordable to a diverse, inclusive, and multi-generational community. You know, that's gonna take a little bit of another tweak with it in the manner, but you could get the word affordable in there instead of in the phrase affordable housing, sort of as a verb form.
Okay, I kind of like that.
Yeah, because I mean, it says to support a diverse, which means you can
you got a
support all of
a
those
broad
things.
spectrum.
Yeah, I like that.
I like that. And that gets it in and it keeps with the affordable here. But it also because that definitely means different to different people. When I talk to the DHMC, they talk about affordable housing for their nurses and it's a completely different range that, there's other. So I like that. Okay.
So the last sentence,
Mhm.
what do we mean by encourage? What are we trying to say there?
We're trying to say that it's gonna be on the water sewer line. It's gonna be in the village, and I said our villages, which I'm kind of, that's what's tripping me up, so I just say in the village. But I know that then Enfield Center feels left out, but I think what we were talking about by existing public infrastructure, and public infrastructure is water, sewage, roads, and keeping it in that, referencing back to the New England, pattern, traditional New England settlement is what it means. That's how remember it. I'm happy if someone sees it something differently.
Can we say Enfield will encourage housing near existing public infrastructure?
Just keep out the our villages.
Yeah. So can you say that again?
Enfield will encourage housing near our existing public infrastructure.
Near. Yeah, we could say our or existing.
Just maybe we don't even need our.
I don't think we need our by existing public infrastructure, because that's the idea is then we're not, it's for,
We're not taking away rural character.
yeah.
That's going to, okay, if you look at your sewer map, that's gonna give you all the way out Route 4 to the Canaan line. It's gonna give you all the way out 4A to the lakeside condos. And those long strip developments aren't necessarily representative of a traditional compact New England village, in my opinion.
Well, public infrastructure also includes roads that are already existing,
Yeah,
right? So we're not getting into public or private roads. And we put the sewers out there so that like that already exists. Why did we
Why not use? it there?
why did we extend sewers already if we're not gonna use them? Would be mine, like that's already done deal. So we should put more people on that and then we'll actually lower the price of it.
yeah, but we're trying to say that we wanna maintain this compact village thing.
Yeah, but we already have housing in both of those ways. So now we're saying we don't want to use that infrastructure
Yeah,
because
it's
we're
not like
only
we-
gonna build in the,
No, I think what we're saying is that we wanna concentrate the development in the, in the village downtown.
well, that's why we took out villages in the village.
But are you suggesting that we shouldn't be encouraging further development in lower and upper Shaker Village areas or any further development along 4A? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying,
Even though we have the infrastructure there for it?
well, we have the infrastructure. On 4A, it was put in strictly because of the failure of the septic system over at the condos.
I understand why it might have been put in, but it's there.
And I think and just if I'm wrong, the New England settlement pattern, and actually as we're referring to it here, is a lot about economic, the keeping, like, there's still a core. It's not, we're just not putting housing and sewer lines throughout the entire place. So it's not, I mean, if the core is only here, the core can have some arms because there's infrastructure that's already there.
Yeah, but it's not strip development like Route 4 is turning into.
Right, but if we put housing on it, then it wouldn't turn into strip development.
Where are you gonna put the housing?
Well, that's a
Well,
different issue, really. Isn't it?
Someplace that, well, I mean, we're putting housing in Main Street where we should be putting stores.
I agree, in the village.
Yeah, but we're also saying we want to build on using existing public infrastructure. We're encouraging housing in there. I would put it on Route 4. I mean, tear down those abandoned buildings that are standing there and put in, there's ways to put in a nice little housing community. You might be on the floodplain, but some townhouses or something like
Are
that.
you talking about like Route 4?
Yeah.
With all the houses that are.
Yeah,
empty?
take out that crappy craft store, whatever thing it is, and put in some housing. That looks villagey, it's on the sewer. I mean, there's, I wouldn't see why not. Unless we want to make that only economic, which then if you do economic development out that way, that's not concentrating it in the village either. Right?
Right. But if we're talking about, people being able to walk to restaurants and shops, we're not talking about 2 miles of Route 4.
You can get closer to restaurants and shops being on Route 4, because you've got 5 pizza places within a walking distance if you live on Route 4. than if you live on Lock Haven.
That is true.
I mean, like you're actually closer to, and you're on the bus line on Route 4, whereas you're not on the bus line if you're anywhere else.
I would suggest that we leave that statement as it is and talk about where it can be serviced by existing public infrastructure, because what we're saying there is, we're not talking about expanding our public infrastructure. We're
Right,
talking about taking advantage of what it is.
yeah,
We don't have to be talking about it in terms of building strip, stuff anywhere.
right,
It's there.
Right.
So all we're saying is let's encourage, somebody may come up with some bright ideas about how to do this creatively, and therefore it won't compromise anything, but it's already there. And ignoring it seems to me to just perpetuate the problem we have right now, which is an underutilized set of public infrastructure.
I guess I would say that I'm happy with the sentence as it is, because it's not an A or B proposition, it's an A and B proposition. And if you take out villages,
mhm.
it just leaves the B part of it, and I think it's important to have both.
So keeping it all as encourage housing in and near our villages. I'm still confused on the multiple villages. Where it can be serviced by
Well,
existing, is that
you've got-
including Enfield Center?
Well, that's it. You've got Upper and Lower Shaker Village, you've got Enfield Center, you've got the downtown area, you've got May Street area, you've got, I mean, there's, maybe village is the wrong word, but
That's my thing. We, like elsewhere in the, so that's the only thing. And the only reason I'm having an exception with the term our villages is that I think on the maps, we've only identified one specific area, which is the confusion of this whole conversation, as the village, which is Main Street, kind of, 3-4 block radius as the village. It's a little bit more narrowly defined if we take it out and just say encourage housing where it can be serviced by existing public infrastructure. That is none, that kind of gives a little
Yeah.
bit of a broader view, because then we have to, because we're not defining in the maps.
right.
The Upper and Lower Shaker Village as part of the village. That's, all those places that you just named
Right.
don't necessarily get classified elsewhere. That's why, to me, that's what is problematic, and I don't wanna,
I get your point.
I see your point as well.
Not Enfield Center as a village? I see that as that.
right, well, that's where it is, like, we call it Enfield Center, but we've defined the village as downtown, what we
Right.
think of as a downtown on all the maps that are in the land use chapter. And Enfield's village, Enfield Center is Enfield Center, so just again, using that terminology. And yes, but if we don't define village, if we don't say village, new housing can be an Enfield Center because there's existing public infrastructure, maybe not water or sewer, but there's roads. So remember, public infrastructure is multiple things, so it loosens this up a little bit. Would be my
I buy into it.
sold. Okay. Done. Anybody need to change any of this? I think we leave it. We've
Yeah,
alphabetized it. All right. we just have a
Lindsay,
couple
can
things.
you
Yeah,
I need to jump off. I didn't
Yeah.
get your final version of the end of the beginning vision statement. So if you can just make sure you email that to me. At some point I lost track and I can't actually read what's on the wall behind you.
Yeah.
On my
remember
screen.
I
So if
said
you
we
can
were
just
gonna
make sure
keep
you
this
get that.
short for you, Brandy. I will send it to you.
Yeah. And I think I got all of the principal changes. I typed them in as you were doing them. So, but if you have them written up, send me your notes and I'll double check.
Okay. Absolutely.
Okay. Have a good evening, all.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Me too.
Goodbye.
All right, before we leave, well, Brad, I need to talk to you about some notes on transportation really quickly. So we are gonna not meet for a while.
I'll take it.
You're gonna get your Mondays, you're gonna get 2 Mondays back. So what was our,
Ew.
yeah, we're gonna get a couple.
Two.
We are giving Brandy time to take all of the input, all the feedback, all the stuff that we've done. She just needs time to do it. So we were thinking, but she may need to reach out to people individually, so there might be little bits where I have one little thing for transportation.
Approved.
I need you to expand on something. There was something for Economic Development Committee. Just things that got called out that were, she's like, I don't have this. So for transportation, the SWOT analysis, there's some things in there that are just really like, they don't,
Yeah, her version included stuff that didn't make any sense,
yeah,
that piece.
yeah.
So you want me to give you a fresh copy?
And like, if they were conversations, it was like, it just, there were some things in there that were like, just really didn't have any definition around them. Does that make sense?
So you're basically saying, we're not gonna meet with a scheduled meeting
Mhm.
until we basically get called back together.
Yeah, we're hoping that's, we're thinking it'll be July 11th or July 25th. Where she will have a full,
You mean from now to July?
yeah,
Yeah.
We'll
She's
take
gotta do
everything.
all of these changes, and she's gotta do all the hyperlinks. And that also leaves time to take new photographs, because there are a lot of new photographs that need to be taken. And, what else does she have to do?
just really like, go back and rewrite certain sections, and, you know, she just needs time and meeting every 2 weeks, like, and we have done our work. So now she just needs time to put it all together, but we want to meet back, and we were thinking July 11th. We'll put on the calendar for right now. It may be the next one. But we want to be able to take a look at what all she's done before we release it, before we come together and do and then strategize on the public release. Okay? Strategize on that and just what that would look like. And then hopefully it'll be we will do something in August for the public. And then it'll get presented to the planning board.
In the fall.
In the fall. The next piece then is those that do not wish to continue, because we need to work on, and Dave and I will work on refreshing seats for people that, you know, as we're moving to the next chapters, and or those that just have other things that are on their plates to do and to deal with, and need stuff taken off their plates. Although we have a whole recreation chapter, so you're gonna have to find us something. that
I
will be
have-
great.
I'm
Other
not allowed
people.
to say it, but yes,
Okay.
it's dealt with.
The Economic Development Committee, the one thing that in our meeting with Brandy that came up, was that in the recommendations was like increased cooperation between EVA and the town was a recommendation. And then somebody else mentioned something about like, we should be, on the map, we should be identifying anchor businesses. I don't necessarily know if I agree with that, because I don't really think of any businesses in Enfield as anchor businesses. I don't know. I'm happy to
Where
have,
did that come from?
it came from the planning board. And if we wanted to, if we wanted to identify anchor businesses, we would need to give her a sheet. So with addresses, so she could literally plot them on the graph,
But
on the map.
Brandy?
So
Yeah,
Brandy is.
I would, I guess I'll have to go read the planning board minutes, but I would argue that then puts preferential treatment on certain businesses that we deem as anchor. And I mean, how are we defining it, I guess? So that just is one more piece. We're
We-
defining anchor by what they hire more than X amount of people.
We
they-
don't have to,
I'm just saying, you know, like, that would be a hard one for me with what we're trying
Yeah,
to do here by
I
not
agree.
doing that.
I agree.
But-
This was just something that came up, and
I see.
again, we don't have to, I didn't know if that was something in your, so maybe it's just no, you know, and we don't, if we are increasing cooperation between Eva and the town, I think she wanted, I started to write something, but then I didn't write it, so I don't
Does she
know.
want us to
I have
expand?
a little
on it?
checkbox, but I didn't actually put words next to the checkbox, so.
Is it like a what that means? Does she want?
Or
an
maybe it
expansion?
is like, what do we mean by increased cooperation? It's just a
Okay.
guide, it's on the recommendations.
But it was the whole thing of how does EVA, which was started for one purpose and has evolved into a related but different purpose, how does that then relate to the town's economic development, which is in Rob's wheelhouse, and which drives, who's in charge here? Is it Eva telling Rob what to do? Is it Rob telling Eva, we think this would be a good idea? Is it both Rob going in one direction and Eva going in a different direction? I mean, it's just,
I think the point is that
unclear.
EVA has an economic development subcommittee. And instead of saying, thanks for all your work piece, the town's gonna do it now, it was more of a, can that committee, which are town members anyways, be part of an economic development committee itself that the town would have to create, which is in there, I think, as a recommendation is to have one. So anyways, we can try to.
I'm gonna encourage Brandy to reach out to individual subcommittees when she has questions,
Yeah.
because that won't be considered a public meeting. And so maybe expect some of those, but, if she's running into something, but beyond that, we won't be meeting until you hear from us again. But do keep July 11th on your calendar, if you are in town.
I was gonna say something about Eva. That was, you're talking about it's for economic development. No.
it's not.
No, they have a
They
committee.
have I'm on the board.
Oh, okay.
EVA was set up for revitalization in the downtown area. That was the main focus of it, right?
It started out
Right. But
quite a while ago.
But in the absence of other, town directed activities, they have started taking on the role of helping all businesses in Enfield become connected, supported, known. That's why there's a directory and that's why they have business coffees
Right.
and all that kind of stuff.
And the coffee.
But there is we actually have created a subcommittee that's focused on economic development. Mainly because there's been an absence of that here. But the talk, and we've had this talk in EVA, is that why are we doing that? That's really not what our mission was. It might be related to our mission, but, maybe the town should be the one doing the economic development stuff. And that's where this discussion is coming from.
I don't think they ever sorted it out.
There has never been any change
yeah,
to the
we-
bylaws of the Enfield Village Association.
Okay. All right, so it was something she pulled out, and there was also a question if it was still a Main Street community, but I will have her contact you all directly if she has
Great.
questions.
Great.
So we don't take more time tonight, but thank you all very much. This is very difficult.
Well, it
This was
was
mind-numbing work.
It did a Main Street
It was good.
program,
Yeah.
and that comes under economic development to make it
That's
nice, and we had the garden.
But there's also stuff with the Main Street program that then, if it's still part of the Main Street program, it precludes it from doing some other things. And I don't think it still is part of the Main Street program. I don't know though. I'm not involved with Eva.
I don't know, but I don't think they outgo the
No.
Bob's job. I mean,
No,
they don't
No,
go above that.
Well,
He's the
no.
economic development person.
Okay, I would like to move that we adjourn.
there you go.
Oh, second it.
Second.
all in favor,
Aye.
Aye.
opposed,
Not gonna be opposed.
we're adjourned, see you in July.